Let me explain. Interest accrued during loan moratoriums are to cover the funding costs of banks, including the payment of interest on deposits and other borrowings by banks to fund the loans. So, so they have to borrow in terms of deposits or bonds or other form of borrowing, and these are the money that they use to give out loans. And the interest that they charge on loans is what the normal interest that the borrowers commit to pay when they took out the loan. And banks have waived late payment and compounded interest charges under the moratorium. So waiving accrued interest payment on all individual and business loan under a moratorium would have significant long-term consequences. Let me put things in perspective. Interest income accounts for 80% of bank revenues, and total individual and SME loans that are eligible for automatic opt-in moratorium accounts for close to 1.4 trillion ringgit, and this accounts for 73% of total banking system loans. So there are serious ramifications if banks were to waive accrued interest given their critical role in the economy. And number one, banks would pull back on lending to conserve their buffers, especially with higher credit losses still expected to emerge. Secondly, banks' own credit ratings may be downgraded to reflect weaker future earnings capacity, and this will make it more expensive for banks to raise capital and funding, and this higher cost would be passed on to the borrowers. Thirdly, confidence in banks will be affected, and this could trigger liquidity stress, and depositors may have concerns about the safety of their deposits, and this action will also jeopardize depositors' interest when the earnings of the banks are adversely impacted. Fourthly, by doing this, banks will not be able to pay dividends to their retail investors and institutional funds that hold public savings, and this will include EPF, KWAP, PMB, LTAT, and Tabung Haji. And this will result in lower returns to depositors and retirement savings. So when you take all this together, this would significantly hurt economic recovery and have longer-term ramifications for our economy and financial system. It is very critical for banks to remain sound, as this is what will enable them to provide the extensive repayment assistance that the borrowers need at this time. And to our knowledge, the repayment assistance offered by Malaysian banks have been the most extensive in any country in terms of scale and scope.